everyone, and welcome to this episode of Writers Infusion. I'm your host, Susan. I am here with Dave, Jen, Julie, and Ed. We are here to read an excerpt of women's fiction called Snapping a Line by Sarah Caruso. I am going to read the summary and the excerpt. So here we go. And if I skip any words, my apologies to the author. My 7-year-old daughter's in the studio with us. June, a mother, wife, and artist, is on the verge of 40. She develops a relationship with a man that points out the distance that has grown in her own marriage. The story of her emotional collapse and the eventual rediscovery and renovation of self is framed within the context of renovating her house. Where there should have been a curved wall, there was just emptiness, wind roaring in my ears. I let go, thumbs up and a gentle push, rushing from the safety of the plane. My body pressed back into his, intimately close, emptiness for miles below, connection and adrenaline. My eyes snapped open. I just needed another minute in that dream, I thought, closing my eyes, trying to pull that moment back to my present. Sex without sex, no climax, never knowing if the parachute would yank my body to slowing grace. I was unrested and sore 200 feet from my house. We were renting our neighbor's summer home. I lay on a mattress that was too soft, between sheets I would never have picked. Each limb, as I stretched it, remembered how many feet of baseboard I had patched and filled and begun to paint. Each limb asking if the plan was the same for today. Yep, until it's done. I missed my own mattress, firm, though with 2 slight depressions where Ben and I had slept side by side for years. The house was so close to being home again I could taste it, smell it too. The scent of polyurethane and latex paint had seeped into all of my clothes. My phone chittered along the table by the side of the bed. Mocha startled, her head popping up from the pillow of my calf, brown curls hiding her eyes. God, she needed a grooming. She looked like Chewbacca. There was so much to do. I picked up my glasses and phone together and slid my fingertip along the screen, wondering who wanted my attention so early in the morning. Bruce. A text from Bruce, my electrician. Well, an electrician, but I felt possessive. You got your CO? No, plumbing inspection hasn't happened yet. Damn. My belly did a little flip. I just jumped out of a plane strapped to his solid body, his bearded face pressed to the side of my head, and I woke to him tucked in my phone by my bed. This guy was tricky to figure out, but the best thing to high-wire Zoom into my life in a while. He'd finished work on the house last week. There was no reason for him to see me anytime soon, but I wanted to see him again. My phone vibrated again, and Mocha jumped off the bed and out the door. That dog was impossibly weird. Thunder and fireworks didn't faze her a bit, but she'd cower and shake at the sound of food sautéing in a pan, the noise of lips blowing across a beer bottle, and now a vibrating phone. Pony play was way, way too tame. Well, cut to the chase, man. Oh, boy.
Amygdala.
Thanks. I can't even say it. Thanks. Lit up like a brush fire, sparky and sudden. I realized I was wiggling my wedding ring at the same moment I was reorganizing my mind. Last week, at the end of his tenure, Bruce made a crack about spending his off hours perusing kinky sex on the internet. I suggested he look up pony play, a fetish where women hoof mitts and face masks and pull men around in sulkies, neighing and getting wound up. Whatever turns your crank in this big wide world, I figured, and Bruce had sparked a straight-faced competitive side I hadn't exercised in a while. What the hell, Bruce? What were you starting? How should I respond? It was one thing to make an off-the-cuff flirty joke, another to text your customer at 7 a.m. to let her know you had spent the evening boning up on her fetish suggestion.
Ba-doom.
So, I wasn't alone in my illicit daydreaming. I dropped my legs over the edge of the bed, sore legs protesting at being asked to move. I walked across the room, split the cheap slap blinds with the tips of my fingers, and peeked at my own house next door. It was complete, empty, waiting for the final coat of polyurethane to dry on the floor and a new toilet tank to be delivered, replacing the brand new leaky one the plumber had put in last week. These were the final 2 things between my house and the certificate of occupancy, the town's permission slip to move back home. I was desperate to move back home, yes, but desperate also to hold on to the adrenaline-fueled vibe surrounding the renovation. The wood floor was freezing on my bare feet as I walked to the bathroom. Hiking up my cotton nightgown to my hips, I sat to pee and pondered how to reply, looking forward to a game that had barely begun. I've never been adept at strategy. I stood and looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. My morning curls always looked like roving families of field mice had been searching for nesting materials in the night, frizzy straw poking in all directions, waiting to be tamed by the shower. I flipped the light on, took my glasses off, folded them, and laid them carefully along the left side of the sink. Leaning in, I took the daily assessment of life versus skin. The examination entailed an inventory of what time, sun, and more joy than sorrow had done to a face that had been around for just over 40 years. Could be worse. There were plenty of line creases around my eyes, a little less plumpness above the lids, a little more below, but no deep pair of worry lines pleating my forehead. No harm in replying, I told myself as I went back to the bedroom, leaned back against the pillows, and typed in, "You like it dirty? Naughty boy," and hit send without the pause that would let me second guess. My heart thumped. I couldn't take that back. What now? I had just dropped an unframed moment into a pocket belonging to someone I liked very much but didn't know very well. My real life was tugging. After closing my eyes for one last moment, postponing the world I had built with Ben just a bit longer, I pulled myself into the kitchen. My favorite blue and green bowl was placed neatly next to the Cheerio box, silver repousse teaspoon tipped in the hollow. I knew how the tiny flowers dressing the handle purled against my thumb without touching it. A sweet daily piece of ritual Ben had done for me every day since we were newlyweds 16 years ago. It felt good to have this happen in this rented space, our neighbor's house, same as at home. It reminded me of what home really meant, as I hoped for a reply from Bruce, my horny electrician. Ben sat at the narrow end of the oval table, swiping through news and email on his tablet, absently eating scrambled eggs before he showered and left for work. Another daily ritual. 2 eggs and the news, although the format had changed over the years. Sunlight dipped under the green-sprigged curtains, catching his blonde curls. I leaned over to kiss the top of his head. He seemed not to register the greeting until I turned. He shot his hand out, spanking my bottom. I flinched in irritation, not pain. I wasn't feeling playful towards him this morning. "I might be late tonight. Don't wait for dinner, Junie," Ben said, not looking up. "When will you know?" "I might go out for a drink after work. Just make enough for me and leave it in the fridge." "Okay." Why was it so irritating not knowing the plan? Had I always been like that? Rose came in, lugging her backpack, retrieved a thick novel from the kitchen counter, and worked on pulling the zipper around the additional thickness in a bag filled to burst. "Mom, can you make my lunch?" I glanced at the clock. 7:28. 10 minutes till her bus. Plenty of time to pour coffee and have a sip before hitting lunch. This quarter, Rose's standard fare was peanut butter and fluff on whole wheat bread, an apple, a Greek yogurt, and goldfish crackers. This would be the only acceptable spread until some mysterious day in the next month or two, when all items would become simultaneously and instantly repulsive to a 12-year-old, and the lunch bag would come home untouched. It always took 3 or 4 days for me to clue in and help Rosie figure out the composition of the next perfect meal. I pulled a loaf of bread and peanut butter out of the cabinet and opened the fridge, pushing aside 4 bottles of expired salad dressing left by my neighbors that I hadn't gotten to trashing, and located a yogurt. Rose grabbed the black and white zebra-striped insulated bag and hefted the overstuffed backpack over her shoulders. I stationed myself by the doorway so Rose couldn't slide past for the day without a quick kiss to the top of her head. When had she gotten so tall? I had to stand on my tiptoes to reach the top of her head with my lips. Rose loped out the door to the bus, the weight of the pack bouncing against her hips. I listened, tilting my head slightly to the right to gauge whether Andrew was awake, and heard the soft swishing noise Lego makes when you sweep your hand through a deep bin. I returned to the bedroom and saw the green blinking light notifying me of a new text. Yes, please. Well,
good job.
Thank you.
I like the play on words in the title. I had to look up snapping a line. There's a phrase, Bob Vila,
talks about snapping a chalk line when it is used to make a
This old
house, and
house.
she's
Yes,
comparing
that's
her
right.
personal
The blue
life
line.
to the blue line, right? And don't use red, but blue or white, I think it is advised. But she's comparing her personal life to renovations on her house, so I can see how that could work. It's a nice title. But I found there were holes, for lack of a better word, in Ben. Ben is gone. Ben doesn't show up till page 4, and then he's barely there, and he disappears again. And Rose comes in, Mom, will you make a lunch? It's spot
Abrupt,
on
yeah.
to mention that she has a favorite lunch, and then it will be her least favorite in a month or two. That was perfect. 12-year-old girls, boys even, are like that. Some of us have adolescents here. But Rose doesn't really talk, have conversation with Rose. Ben and Rose don't interact at all.
Plus,
And
Rose
Ben
appears
seems
out of
just-
nowhere.
She appears out of
Right.
nowhere. And Andrew, we don't know how old Andrew is, except that he plays with Legos. But why don't we ask Rose, is your brother stirring? And where is he going? Does he go to school? I need to know more. I think conversation would really move this along.
I think that the whole story is about this whole thing she's got going on with her electrician, and everything else is a distraction.
Secondary.
Yes.
It's by the time, and I guess I should take this a step back. I think the writing's good. Like
Yeah.
if I look at the individual sentences, I think the writing's good. There's a lot of good verb usage and all that. So I don't want this to be a knock on the writing itself. But for example, when you look at the very last line that I just read, which I couldn't get to then and I can't get to now.
Yes, please.
Oh, it's his
Yes,
response.
please.
Yes, please. So I totally forget what she had said to him.
right.
Right?
Yeah.
All
Right.
this other stuff was going on.
Do you know, that's funny. I thought that was her comment. Yes, please. She was excited to get a text from him. That is so
Oh.
funny.
So
Also-
You're absolutely right.
Also, if you're exchanging flirty texts with Bruce the electrician,
Yes.
is it a good idea to leave your phone unattended in a house with your husband and
Thank
2
you.
children
And
roaming
I was
around?
thinking that too.
You might want
I
to
know.
look at it. Yes. Good question.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
You know what? And I also found, I don't even know where to start here, but there are some things about, she's talking about the house, and there were a lot of details in here that it was so detailed that I didn't care. Now, sometimes I liked the details because you could see sort of a connotation between the lines she wrote and
Yes.
maybe some kind of connection to physically how her body was feeling because she's thinking about this electrician.
Yes.
So when she's describing something, I'm like, that's almost like describing how her body is feeling when she's talking about the house. But there were so many sentences that just didn't even need to be there. There's like
A lot of
play-by-play,
play-by-play, yeah.
Right.
line
There's too
by
much play-by-play,
line,
yeah.
way too much line by line.
I did like the description of her hair as a rat's nest, as a nesting place for mice, and it's all sticking out. I could see that. But while she's there looking in the mirror, wonder how Bruce might view her.
Well,
If
as a
she's
general
beautiful,
rule, we
if
don't
she's
even
messy,
do
how
that.
Ben.
That's a typical thing, that you're looking in the mirror to describe what you look like.
But I thought it was
So-
interesting. She said just past 40, and yet in the summary it says she's on the verge of 40. So please be careful with details. Wherever she is, age-wise, lock her into that instead of referring to both.
The texting threw me off.
Well, you
Okay?
couldn't tell it was texting.
Because
Yes.
Yeah, I
it didn't
couldn't
tell.
did
Right.
not look like texting.
Exactly.
And nobody punctuates texting.
I got confused.
Right.
Well,
like
I do.
this. Well, yeah, you and I do. But, so I kept thinking that it was dialogue. And
Yeah,
that
I
kept,
wrote a note
and
about
that
that.
kept
Yes.
throwing me
Clarify.
off.
Same
Yes.
here.
Yes.
And I had to keep I had to keep reminding myself, oh, this is a text. Like when she goes in the bathroom, and it's like, what kind of conversation is this?
Right.
And then I remembered, it's not a conversation.
Yeah.
It's a text.
Yes, I had the same thing.
I had the same problem.
And then when she's also at the beginning, she just had this dream, and then she is
Right.
thinking about this guy and texting with this guy. So when she walks into the kitchen where her husband is, and by the way, we don't even know anyone's in the house.
Right.
We don't know anyone's in the
Right.
house until she gets to the kitchen, and they
Right.
magically appear.
Right.
But if you're in that mode of you're thinking about
Wouldn't
someone
she be
else,
startled?
right?
Wouldn't she have to shift
the
gears?
part where she got annoyed when he spanked her, that I believe. But ruminating on, this is the thing my husband's always done for 16 years,
know.
and she wouldn't be thinking any of that.
Yeah.
She's
It's
thinking
kind of
about another guy.
Right, unless there's
compartmentalized.
Right,
contrast.
exactly.
Yeah.
She
Yes.
would only be thinking about he's annoying me now. I don't
Right.
want to be thinking like that with him. I'm thinking about like this with another guy.
Yep.
Right.
But the whole beginning where it's nostalgia and the spoon, she's not going to think, it's going to annoy her if anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to see this again. I've been getting the same stupid
Same
spoon for
damn
16
spoon,
years.
Right.
same
It would
damn
be more like
Cheerios.
that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and everybody's got curly hair, her, the dog, and the husband. So like, so it's just got to change.
Must be a humid day, that's
I mean,
this story highlights why I should recuse myself from women's fiction. I have no sympathy for this woman whatsoever.
Yeah.
It also highlights how difficult it is to write women's fiction properly, because none of this stuff that's being talked about here has any value whatsoever. You have to talk about emotion. You have to describe, it's incredibly difficult to describe an emotion. She's miserable. If she didn't say in the summary that she was miserable, I wouldn't know that. She's just grinding her way through life. And the story comes complete with a pool boy. I love it. There's a pool boy thrown in. Son of a gun. Yeah, handsome guy with a beard and hard.
And he skydives. He's
Oh,
adventurous.
he's got it all. So she's fantasizing about that. The real story is her trying to assemble her life from a miserable existence of boredom. And everything else here is superficial. The husband
Which
is...
we haven't seen.
We haven't,
Right.
none.
We haven't seen the miserable existence of
No,
boredom.
this is a normal existence for,
Right.
for 99% of us.
Yeah.
Get up in the morning, make breakfast for the kids, the husband goes off, and the backpack, and the lunch, and the fetchy 12-year-old.
You're getting your house redone.
That's normal.
It's like,
That's right, yeah. I would like it, frankly, I would like it if she were stuck in the house by herself doing the work, and everybody else was somewhere else.
that would be,
Ah,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
a good
that's
way
right.
to do
Because they're
it.
all
she's
Yeah.
doing,
Distraction.
she's doing the
Yes.
baseboards.
She's doing the baseboard, she's smelling
Yeah.
Holly.
and she's now drifting while she's
And
slapping
why
on
am
the...
I doing this? And who is appreciating this?
Yeah, and what,
Now, because Sue said things can be misread, I'm hearing all your words in a different light. This is terrible.
what?
Slapping the baseboard, and she's doing the is that funny?
Oh, what is
wow,
that?
Julie.
You know,
Wow.
Where did that come from?
Sue was
I would say I did not do that,
I said the
not
words
you.
innocently, and I'm
Oh my gosh.
mishearing
I
them.
never, I'm
That's
only the
awful.
one that
Oh, my
does that.
heavens.
Never
See,
you.
I made exactly the same remark you wrote. I said, this is not my kind of story, but what makes this different from every other yearning female book?
Yeah,
I mean, this is Madame Bovary, right?
absolutely. It's the same story rewritten, miserable, and trying to put miserable on a page and having the reader have compassion for that person without shut up.
Right.
Well,
Just shut up
Without
and
it
stop
being whiny.
whining.
Yes.
okay, so, and by the way, when she looks in the mirror, she says most of her years have been happy. But she's obviously not.
Oh, I missed that. I mean, it
Yes,
just slipped my
so-
mind. There's so much else.
You know, it is taking it to, first of all, I think it's a good idea to have her alone in the house. If she's doing the work herself, whatever she's
Yeah.
doing, the other
Yes.
people
That's an interesting
are a
idea.
Yes.
distraction, because the whole time they're introduced, it's like I said at the end, you forget who said yes, please. Like, what is he answering?
Yes.
There's all this stuff going on that distracts from the whole point, which is she's, got this thing for this other guy.
Well,
So-
Bruce should be in the house.
Yeah.
He's an electrician.
Yes.
I want to see the
He
tension
should
build
be.
between them over
Exactly.
time.
And
That's-
if
that's
she
what
is
it's already
doing the work,
happened.
then she's doing the work on herself, her own personal life, and she's doing the physical work in the house. It makes more sense.
So
And
let's say,
Well,
oh,
you know, what if you were getting a series of texts? She's in the house all by herself doing all this work, and she's getting texts like, "Hun won't be home tonight,"
Yes.
period, from her husband. "Mom, pick me up at school. My ride didn't
Yeah.
show up." So
And then the
all this
electrician, I
crap-
watched Pony
and then-
play last
and
night.
That's
She'd
right.
rather
And then
talk
the
to him.
electrician.
Rather respond to
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
all right, let's talk about what
That's a
Dave
good
said
talk.
for a minute,
That's
because Dave
interesting.
was saying there's nothing about this that makes it unordinary.
Unique,
Is
yeah.
that a word? And unique is
Unique.
better. Let's use that word. So if we start with she's doing the work herself, which brings it a level of that's a little bit different, but there's still nothing super unusual. Like, what is different? Does she have to get the house done because, is something wrong with her husband? Is there a health thing going
Oh,
on?
so they have to refit it
Or
because there's an
there has
injury,
to
or-
be
yeah,
a
that's
different
good.
piece. There has to be something different about the story.
Yeah, the other house is too
So
convenient.
that, And maybe, when you just hear about, oh, she's attracted to some guy and she's bored. Well, that's kind of, well, your poor husband. So what if you're bored? But what if, no, I lost my train of thought. I know I thought of something.
I can fill in for you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the opening page should be electricity between her and the electrician.
That's great.
Right.
Right there, opening page.
I know what I
Now
was
we
gonna
know what
say.
we're
I thought of what I
gonna,
was
this
gonna
is
say.
the story. And eventually find out that, well, won't your husband be angry? No, he doesn't care. So whatever the dialogue is, and I can't write it.
So they're physically together, or they're texting?
I think they
but
should
they're-
be
No,
physically
he's in the
together.
house
Physically
and he's
together.
wiring,
Got it.
doing
I think
whatever.
they should be.
That's good.
But the other piece of that is, and this depends on how you want to do your story. But if you want to feel empathy for her, it can't just be because she's bored. There has to be something else going on so that you can identify and want to read on with this. And even if you don't agree with what she's doing, then you can at least see, like, I kind of get it. Whether it's, maybe there's something going on with her husband, or the husband's,
She's
bored, or-
underappreciated,
Yeah,
and-
Well, I
I
think
mean,
that's
but
going
there
to
has
be-
to be something. I mean, everybody's underappreciated. I think it has to be
Not
something.
me,
I
they've written letters to me.
You married well.
think it'll be revealed later. I really do, because the summary does tell us she's working on the house and she's working on herself.
And
Changing.
I want to see the tension build between her and Bruce.
I wanna see
I
it
want
right
to see
away.
that relationship happen.
Yes.
Like it's already there. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like,
So they have a foundation.
but I want to see it happen over time. Like he comes and he's got to fix this, and then something else happens, and then he comes again, and then something else happens, and,
So-
and she's like,
So if
Yeah,
that's
and
the
then-
first
I don't
scene,
know.
maybe they're having a conversation and you learn a little bit about both of them. And so as the story goes on, you can see like there's a reason that something's happening there because you learn about the other pieces happening
And then
in
the
the
husband
story.
comes home and he's ignored. She's drifting away thinking about,
He really
But
seems
maybe-
two-dimensional, doesn't he? The
well,
husband-
he's
cardboard.
non-existent.
He's non-existent.
He's non-existent. He's a
He's a
throwaway
piece of
item.
furniture, yes.
It's all the kids.
But you really want to come into this like learning about what's happening and feeling something for her because when you're just hearing that she's bored,
Yes.
plus
Yes.
adding on that there's nothing different here.
no, I'm trying to think of a story
Mocha.
that's.
I just got that.
Mocha,
Mocha.
Mocha. Okay.
Mocha?
a pleasant combination of chocolate and coffee.
Yeah, okay, got it.
I just thought I'd,
Thank you.
So, and again, we're saying a lot of things about what we want to change, but I want to bring back that I think there are a lot of, and I'll write this in here too, I think there's a lot of nice sentence structure
Yeah.
and nice play on words.
The
I
writing's
don't-
great.
Yeah,
Some
It's
descriptions.
not the
Yeah.
writing,
Yeah.
it's the story, and I don't want to
The
say it's the
structure,
story,
yeah,
but I think like based on what we're saying, I think you could really go back, and if you start with, he and she, and they're in the room together, which I would love to see too.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like this big thing going on.
And what is going to
Right.
make this different? What is
Exactly.
going
What's
to
unique
make
about
this
this?
different? There's 100
Yeah.
novels
Yeah,
out
yeah.
there, What is going to make
that's,
this
that's,
different?
that's where she shows her writing chops.
Yeah.
You have to make it unique.
What is going to
What's
catch,
special about this?
an agent's eye or, a
Right.
reader's
Exactly.
eye and say, oh, that's interesting.
And part of that's character. I mean, in voice. So, right from the first page, you want to catch that voice right away. But certainly, if the voice catches you right away, within the first 2 or 3 pages, there has to be something different about this story.
Well, speaking of characters and speaking of uniqueness, when he called her Junie, I thought, oh my God, he's Ben, she's June, Benny and June. It just came to mind. This is not like the movie Benny and June, but all of a sudden I'm thinking of those characters. So maybe choose your characters' names carefully.
I wonder if her last name is Jones.
Bruce's might be Jones, and that's the next chapter.
That's funny.
I don't know.
Is there anything
But
else?
there's promise.
There's
you know-
definitely promise.
And I've checked out these websites, and they're great.
Good to know. Well, Ed and I were conferring over here, I must say, and I won't read it, but I must say on page 3, when he's learning about this website, I said poor choice of words. He should probably say brushing up or something else. Yes. That wasn't.
Why?
Spent the
choice of
evening
words.
boning up on her fetish suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
know.
that's,
But
that's, I
Yeah.
heard the badoom.
Yeah,
Well, you-
I did, yeah. So did I.
goodness.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Did you? Not a
Yes.
distraction, not a
Actually,
distraction.
Yeah.
You're usually so quiet.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I know.
Perhaps learning about
And I wonder about this house. This is a neighbor's house. It's only yards away from her house, which is
If
odd.
it's a summer house,
And
where are they
summer house-
living?
Where are they? What season
in
is
the
it?
ocean?
Exactly.
Right.
You know,
Do they,
mountains?
are they year-round in this summer destination, or is it
Yeah, they might
Maine
be
and
on
New
the
Hampshire?
Cape
It could be rather
year-round or
cold,
something.
or the Arctic.
Because then that would
But-
actually add tension, because if they're
Yes.
only there a certain time of the year, and
Yes.
she's with this guy, that's the only time she could see this
Oh,
guy.
that's
Oh,
good. Like
that's
same time
right.
next year.
Deadline,
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
yes, that wonderful movie, classic movie. But my question is, the house and the rental from the neighbor, is it cramped quarters, or is there ample space for the four of them?
I think they're
wanna
living in a
know-
hollow wall.
That story.
Different story.
Different story, sorry.
But there's a mouse. There's a mouse mentioned. The mice in her hair. I like
I
that.
know.
But you have to be careful, because we
yes.
don't, in the first few pages, if it's just the two of them,
Yes.
we want to focus on the two of them.
It's
and not
dialogue that'll kill. That's where the story will be made or broken on the dialogue in the first couple of pages.
But you don't want to bring too much in from the
No,
outside.
but I want to
world.
know about this house. Is it tiny? Is it is it renovated itself? Is it beautiful to what she's looking for in her own house, or is this
Right.
an old,
Cottage.
mildewy, musty cottage, old carpeting and
Seem
old,
nice.
old
Hardwood floors.
amenities? Right.
Indoor
thought-
plumbing.
It's funny, I thought that the mattress at the beginning was on the floor.
Huh.
And then I may be
did
wrong.
too.
And then she swung her legs out and
Yes, so
stood
they were
up.
dangling. Yes.
So if they're sleeping on a
Yes,
mattress on the
yes.
floor, there's something rustic about this
Yes.
place.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Did you? I also a question about the very first, the opening paragraph.
Lost.
Yeah. Did you think it was just too out
Lost.
there? I kind of thought it was a little too out
Yes,
there.
oh, I didn't
You
like
shouldn't
where there
start
should have
with
been
a
a
dream
curved
anyway.
wall.
Exactly.
Again, the cliche,
Thank
you
you.
can't start with a dream.
I would love to just see them
Shouldn't.
start with them two in this house. With
Oh,
the
that's
right.
houses.
Yes.
Yeah, she wakes up.
Yeah. No waking up.
Yeah, no waking
She's already
up.
with the guy.
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah,
they're
she's
working.
she's
Oh.
sanding the floor or whatever.
Speaking
Yeah.
of waking up, she has time to make coffee and her daughter's lunch before the bus, and then she doesn't make the coffee. So include the coffee ritual.
Or the lunch.
She's
Well,
gonna-
there's too much
See, I think
thinking.
it's- I
She
think it's
gathers
already-
things for the.
I think
I
take
know.
out the lunch. I mean,
Yes.
it's too much play
Yeah,
by
skip
play.
it.
I don't even
Well,
want to
take
take
out-
out the
You have
peanut
to
butter
take out
fluff.
that whole thing. Look, we've already started her with the guy.
Yeah.
She's with the guy working in the house.
Yeah.
But it's her
you
story.
need the 12-year-old.
I know.
Yeah, something
I know,
to
I know.
start
So-
too
and
early.
then-
You're starting too late. We
So,
want to
The lunch was made
see
last night,
the
it's in the
relationship.
There you
refrigerator.
go.
Awesome.
That's
Right,
right.
Bruce.
Right. Good.
all right, so just to recap, we think the writing's very good. So, just think about everything we said about, we don't want so much play-by-play. It's more about, where is she at? What's unique about this story, and what's unique about when she's connecting with this guy. We want to see more about how the relationship started, if it's going to be a relationship, as opposed to just her telling us. We want to see it for ourselves. Show, don't tell.
Yeah, her language, her writing shows a remarkable command of the thought that she's having. I understand, except for the first paragraph, I didn't know about the dream, but everything else makes sense. It fits in. It needs restructuring, I think. Again, it's your story, so you do what you want to do. But if you started, and here we go again. Authors write 40 pages before they hit their stride on the story. If you drop a couple of pages here, no sweat. We've all done it.
It's so typical.
You're just clearing your throat. You're getting ready. You're finding out where the story is, who the people are, where you're going to go. So don't be afraid of
cut.
trimming.
Cutting it. Yeah, so Sarah, thank you so much for writing us. We hope that our critique helped you today. Thank you everyone else for joining us for this episode of Writers Infusion. We will see you next time. Keep writing.